Hello, my links, and back to another fine channel. I'm J Book Square, and today we are starting the Cosmere. I don't love my beard. It's just like one of those days where I hate it. We're dealing with what we have. I have started Misborn, guys. It's official. We are in the Cosmere. And I figured that could be what part of the intro is about before we jump into how I'm doing this. As this is still counted as a series review video. So I've done a few of these in the past at this point. We did Skyward. I have a whole playlist I'll link you to. Or there's a lot of other ones I've done as well where I read a whole series and then I review them. Yet the Cosmere verse is like 19 books. And I had a very similar reaction to like Shadowhunters. I'm cutting it up. I'm breaking it apart. So we're going to be doing the era. So we're going to read the... Now, when we get up to Way of Kings, I have a strong feeling those books in particular, those ones will probably be by book. It just really depends on the series and the length of each book and how I feel, how I can like talk about them. Those are all over like 1,200 pages. So I just feel like it will probably be better if I break them up. The moral of the story here is that Misborn Era 1 is in this video. Okay? That's where everybody recommends you start the Misborn era, the Cosmere. I read one other book from the Cosmere before, and that was the one on the boat with the girl and the princess. I can't think of the name. I liked it. I gave it like a 3.5, 3.75. I think I'm gonna love it now, but I really enjoyed it the first time I read it, but I'm very excited to go back around to read them, and that'll be a part of the standalone video where we're reading all the standalones in the Cosmere. The way this works, I don't have a guide. I have, I'm gonna look up a guide once we get through Misborn Era 1, so I can read all the things and novellas and those things. There is a novella or a short story that comes before the first book in the Misborn. I was told to read after book 3. You'll have a lot more context with the conversation. So we're going to do. That being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into a Jacob in the future who's finished the 3 first books in the Misborn era, who finished Misborn Era 1. You can come back and review it and tell you how you feel. And so yeah. Take it away, Jacob. Okay, I won't lie, I have no idea why I didn't think I was gonna have to film this, but also, could you, like, what a different person. Totally, like, what a different person. That person's gonna be on the screen for a little bit, as I've read 2 of these books relatively close back to back, and then I read the final, and what is that last book called? I can't remember. I just read that in December, so these were read back in, like, March, April of this year, and then I took a long time off, because I just couldn't put it as a priority read. Either way, let's talk Misborn, which is technically the Final Empire. This has been titled a few different things over the course. This copy that I own is the first book, and it is Misborn. It follows our group of 3 characters. Really, in the first book, we're following Kel and we're following Vin. Other characters get involved, but those are the big things. Vin is our introduction to this world and how this world works. She is discovered to be a Misborn by Kelsier. Kelsier is someone who's trying to take down an empire and needs as many of these people as possible. Essentially, in this world, you can have elemental power. It's not elemental power. It's like, I don't remember what it's called. You can burn metals. Okay, it's like a metal power. So like, you can burn bronze. You can burn pewter. Ours are chromium is what it is. Iron, steel, tin, pewter, zinc, brass, copper, bronze. All these have powers that you can burn. And most people are born with the ability to burn a single one of these. However, some people, like Vin, very few people, are Misborn who can burn them all. And so we're following her journey as they're taking down an empire. Now the question here, because that's like the most non-spoiliness I can give you, would I recommend? Fuck yeah, you're gonna have a great time. I have a lot of good things to say. This book blew me away. So, lots of great things going forward for you. Being said, let's go ahead and jump into spoilers. Alrighty, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump into spoilers for Misborn Book 1, which is called The Final Empire, which I feel like is such an ambitious idea. And I have to say, because these books, they're a bit older, I love the style that they're written in. One of the big takeaways I got from it, as we have like a synopsis of what the book's about already, I'm just gonna talk spoilers. I love Vin as a character. I also love, I want to say Kelso, but it's not, the other one who takes her in. This is all about a heist. Normally a heist is you're trying to steal something. In this case, a heist is directly related to breaking, like, ending an empire, which is so cool. And I love all the different elements. I like the magic system quite a bit. We're about 40 to 45% of the way through the book currently, and I'm adoring it so much. I find it super easy to read, super easy to understand. Like, I was so intimidated by this novel, so intimidated by these novels in particular. I was like, I'm not gonna understand it. I'm not gonna like it. It's gonna be too high fantasy for me. No, I find the politicalness to be just the right amount. I find the action to be great and gripping. Also, I've never read adult Brandon Sanderson because I would still say Trusted Overseas. That's the one I read. Was more YA. This is very adult, which I love. I love how dark it gets. I love how violent it gets. I love the complexity of all the characters. I think it's building out beautifully. I could not recommend this book more. Oh my god. If you've not read Misborn Book 1, please do. It's so good. It's so good. So good. So good. I'm trying to think spoilers. I don't really know if I have any, except for the fact that like Vin going into high society and the fact that the world is really based on like old England, and those are the vibes that I get. Somewhat cyberpunky in a way as well, which I have learned is very similar to like what my favorite type of fantasy is. Not so much high England, but like, you know, where it's not like you're in a desert land and it's like fantasy. I find that this is my type of fantasy that I enjoy. However, I feel like the fantasy world that I'm building with you guys on YouTube is gonna be like a mixture of a few different fantasy worlds, just because there's like a lot of other elements I want to play with, and so I think it's gonna be like vast. But besides the point, I also got Shadowhunter vibes. I know you're like, Jacob, stop comparing everything to Shadowhunter. I don't do it very often anymore. I used to be a problem. But if you love The Lost Hours and or The Infernal Devices, oh my god, I think this is for you. I think you could get behind this. There isn't a gripping romance, so don't be like, oh my god, where's the romance, Jacob? I thought you said it was for me. It's about the vibes, okay? It's about everything else going on, because I think it's gonna work. I think it's gonna work. I think it's gonna work quite well. Alright, that being said, that's the first update I have you. I will come back and finish the update, and we'll talk full spoilers for the second half of the novel. Once again, we have Vin, and we have the leader, and everybody else that they're going through it, and they're trying to figure out, and they're understanding the political space that they're in, and they're just trying to like fully like immerse themselves in the scenario, and I just think it's beautiful, and I'm so happy that I'm reading it. I'm so happy that I'm forced to read it, as I was going to push it off even further, but I got the second book, and it's due back in like 9 days, and I was like, oh my god, I gotta read this first book so I can read the second book. It's a great fucking time. Hello, let's talk Misborn. I did finish the Final Empire, and I'm about 50% into the sequel, so we're just going to combine them together. However, I'm just going to go over the brief points that I have to talk about for the first one. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I gave it a 5 stars. I was really sad that Kelso, something near those lines. I'm sorry. I really like the character. I'm just really bad at names. Had died, and that Vin. I was also really shocked that when he died, that Vin did succeed in killing the king. I feel like all those sequences were great. The character was so well done that I was just sad that like it left us so early with how well done the character was. So I just wish that we had more time with him, which I guess is a good definition of a great character. Also, for people who are like, oh, romance girlies, I actually would think this is a romance girly series. So yeah, I'm gonna stand by my truth. If you like The Infernal Devices, I actually think this is a great title for you, which is insane. So if you're someone who loves Mistborn, you're like, oh, I want something, it's much not the same, but it's kind of the same. I recommend The Infernal Devices by Sandra Clare. It is the beginning of the timeline, but you do kind of need to read more Punishments first to really understand some of the context. You really don't. It's up to you. It really is up to you. I really should make a video detailing like all the things with that series, but I don't. It's such a long video. I don't know if I want to make it. Let me know if you want me to do an in-depth Shadowhunter, because it's just such a weird thing. I'll talk about it, I guess, in my vlog and stuff, where it's more prevalent. Okay, back to you guys. Back to this book. So he dies, they take over the Final Empire, and then the book ends. We also realize that the original king is the person who's writing the book. The book is being told to us every chapter. We get little sections. Vin's been reading it as well. Vin has a beautiful love interest. I absolutely love him. And overall, I just really fucking adored that novel. I enjoyed every aspect of it. So come to my surprise when I start book 2, which I read book 1 so quickly because it was so engrossing, but also like I had to, was because book 2 is due back in like 2 days. And I'm like, okay, well, I really gotta move my progress along so I can make sure like I don't have to buy the book so I can finish it. And I got halfway through it in the last 2 days. My thought process is on the sequel so far. I don't really have a big spoilers to talk about. I find a lot of the politics to be fine. The action's pretty good. It's a bit darker. By a bit, I mean a lot. The violence is a bit more graphic, and just in general, the idea of child stuff going on as well here was really disturbing. I don't really think I picked up on it too much in the first book, but it's pretty prevalent here. It's a lot of politics, a lot of moving pieces. They're trying to gain complete control, and the like agenda has changed. Also, there's a B plot, which I think is going to turn into the A plot for the third book. I don't really think that's the point of this novel, like I originally once thought maybe it was. Being halfway through this at this point, and it really is making sure that they stand the best ground going forward, and that they have the most supporters, and that the people that they want in charge can be in charge, and those like that type of thing. People are dying in the mist as well, which I find to be so intriguing and so interesting. There's a lot of other stuff going on, a lot of character movement. I enjoy every character so much. I think every character is so nuanced, and there's so many sequences of where they're just like they're having late night chats and they're talking over one another, and it just feels like one big gigantic family, and I just can't help but feel so warm and cuddly inside, and like, oh my god, this is perfection. And I'm so grateful for Brandon Sanderson to bringing this to every one of his books. The way they treat Vin, the way they understand Vin, I think is also beautiful. There's a little bit foreboding about their relationship, which I also enjoy. Adds a bit more tension to the story. I have decided to change some things on how I'm going forward reviewing books, because this does not seem satisfactory to me, where I'm just telling you some of the pinpoints that my brain can remember, because it just doesn't seem like, I personally just think you deserve better, and these books deserve better. I feel bad for this vlog. It's gonna be short. It's not gonna be very long, and I'm not gonna have a lot of information and things, and so like that makes me upset. I'll do better with the rest of the Cosmere, I promise. I'm gonna start taking notes. I stopped taking notes a while ago, I'd say about a year ago, because my recollection it's good. It's a really good, but I'm finding a lot of series I want to read this year are high fantasy or high sci-fi, and I find that I have a hard time talking about high sci-fi and high fantasy in any retro point, like at all. I just find it very difficult for me to articulate my thoughts about it and to be able to tell you the nitty-gritties and the deep dives. And so anytime I have a moment where I'm like, oh, well, I want to mention that, I'm going to write it down. I have a whole specific page in my journal every month where it's just dedicated to these types of reviews. So this is not going to be a problem, because like now that I'm implementing it here, it means the final book in the Red Queen series, which eventually I'll get to this month. I have a feeling I might finish this series first, and I'll tell you about Red Queen series. I like it, but it's just really hard to talk about. So I think my brain's just like, you can move on. And this one's much easier. I'm not finding it to be as easy to talk about as like Skyward was, but I do find this to be easier. But I absolutely adore them, and I would recommend them greatly. Okay, that being said, I will talk to you guys very shortly with another update. Fingers crossed I finish it tomorrow, or if I get really fucking close. I don't really know. I'm kind of busy, so we'll see. I'm gonna try my hardest though. Hello, let's update The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson for this reading vlog. I'm 75% into it, I think, at this point, so we have some things to talk about. There is a love triangle that took me off by guard. Also, some big plot points that I just didn't think, I kind of forgot about, or I didn't forget about, but they were stored in the back of my head that were in the forefront of the novel, is that they had someone, this book takes place a year after Kel's death, but they had someone who they believe was, they knew they had a mole in the system. This book is all about the politics as well. In this world, we have Elvin, something along those lines, and love interest. He is obviously the son of a king, and he gets elected to become the top person, the king of this place that they're at. And at some point in the novel, about halfway through, he gets de-elected as well, and they have to go back into a vote and things, and so we're still trying to figure it out. Some other big things is that she found an element really early on in the novel that she ended up having to use in a very big fight scene where she killed like 14 people. Vin did. Something else I forgot to mention for the first book is that she can take the power from the mist. She's the only one. They keep talking about the Hero of Ages. That's what the third book is called, for instance. And with the Hero of Ages in particular, that is someone who's going to save the world. So they figured out who the mole was. Vin has also figured out that she needs to leave the land and go somewhere else, and so that's what she is on the trajectory of doing. And several other things are happening. I got distracted. That's what I'll update you. I'll update you when I finish it as well. And I've made my page take notes, so I should be able to take some notes and stuff when I read it tomorrow to finish it. I've got 2 hours left. I did not be able to finish it in time for my hold, but I did end up buying all 3 books on the thing that I use for when I own audiobooks, because I don't think it's a 5. I think it's a bit too on the political scale of fantasy for my own personal liking, and it stays in the space for my own personal liking. The first book had heists and a lot of other elements that I think really gelled everything well. Also, I think because we met, Kel disappeared, the main character and also like just the structure of the novel also changed dramatically, which makes sense to me. It's the second book and things, but due to the fact it changed so dramatically, I'm still having a hard time fully like equipping to the new version. So I don't think it's definitely a 4 at least. I'll let you guys when I finish it. Hi, welcome back. Let's close out this portion of this vlog. I have officially finished The Well of Ascension. I finished it today. I have some thoughts, and I write down my thoughts for you guys. I won't lie, a lot of these thoughts only partake to part 5, so that sucks with The Well of Ascension. However, I found it to be quite interesting by the end. The ending really pulled it together for me personally. I gave it a 4.25. Like, I mean, I think personally, it really brought the whole thing. One of the big things is that war had officially came. I think that was a part 4. So in part 4, essentially it was them figuring out where the well is. She believes, or Vin believes that she goes out, she goes to the well, she can come back and she can defeat the current war that is brewing inside this place. Okay? Essentially because this whole entire book has to do with politics, which we all know is probably my least favorite part of fantasy. I don't mind writing politics. I don't mind diving in and figuring out the nitty-gritties of a politics system. I find that to be actually kind of fun, but reading it, I don't find it nearly as interesting as it is like building your own version of like a rebellion. And this entire book series is based around a rebellion of sorts. However, I didn't really expect, because they ended up making Ellen king, then he stepped down from being king and then re-evac, and that ended up sending the whole place into a revolution of sorts. We are deep diving into that revolution, and essentially the guy Strass, Strass is the bad guy, the one who loves Tippett, the one who's full of knowledge, I can't think of his name, he ends up telling Vin that the Well of Ascension is in the mountains, because originally in the previous stories it would be in the mountains, but by this point I think Vin, by the time they end up going into the mountains, her and Ellen do, and also the decoy that's supposed to be there to keep them going even though it didn't work. I think the whole point of it was simply she realized that why would they be in the mountains? They can transform, they can, this is a godlike power they're trying to hide. It wouldn't be in the place that they found it beforehand, and wouldn't make most sense that it would be next to the previous king, so when he did find it or did need it, it was of use. That's what she came down to, and that was what the realization of it all was. And we're figuring out, because every book has these passages in the very beginning of every chapter, which I find beautiful, and I find the reveals for them to be so immaculate. Oh my god, the first one was amazing. This one was just as good. And this one all had to do with the fact that if Ellen was with her when she found the Well of Ascension, she would end up using it because somebody would try to provoke her to let the god out. And which is all the things that happen. So some things I have is that Tippett is dead, and it did change this entire character that I have grown really attached to over the past 2 books. And now there's somebody I don't even recognize, which I think is great character development, and it happened so quickly. I think Mary Sanderson handled it so beautifully. 10 out of 10. As she did kill Strath, and did it in such an interesting way. She ends up killing like 6 horses in the process. And it's to the point where I couldn't tell if she killed Strath, but she did end up killing Strath, which was amazing. And due to the fact that she was only burning, I can't think of the name, it starts with the P, sulfur the whole time, she was only allowing herself to have so much energy, and eventually her body did succumb, so she ended up in a coma for a very short period of time. I also thought that Glenn, that is the one I was thinking of before, it's not Glenn, but I thought maybe he would be the hero based on the conversation of Hero of Ages being, maybe it's more described as a man than it is a woman. However, I'm still on the fence on who truly is, because that also brought up the good point is that the whole point is not what Vin gets to the Well of Ascension, and not what Ellen gets to the Well of Ascension. I thought that was because maybe Brandon was building our villain for this era, because the next era takes place 300 years, so I don't expect these characters to really be alive by then. So I thought, okay, we're following Vin, she has a really rough past, and maybe her becoming a god, which is what essentially this would have been doing, to where she did accept the power, maybe it would have created her into an on-purpose villain, because all the stories, the stories in the past talk about how it changes the person from the inside out. So I thought maybe that was going to be the case. It's still not clear, but I don't think it will be. Also was really curious is, would the mist abandon her because she can manipulate the mist? And because this is a mist, like it's a godlike mist, I thought maybe that would be interesting, and so that's still on the fence. I still think it's highly possible. I was really scared they were going to kill Ellen. They did not. He ends up becoming a misborn, unlocking that power. She did eventually let go of a god, and I was like, oh my god, did she? And she did, to save. Because the whole point here is Ellen is like her vocal point. She awoken a god to save him, and then in previous conversations that would be something that she would have done at the end of the last book. She would have saved him by a god, or maybe halfway through this book, but that's not something he would want, and that's the reason why the god gets let out. And I think whoever had come up with this had known by this point in her life that's where she would be at. Perfect. Other things are big things. She killed his brother. That was really intense. And oh my god, the dog, the wolf being the spy, also did not see coming, and it hurt me greatly. So that is the Well of Ascension. We have Hero Ages last. I am taking a mini break from this series, however. That's my update. I'll talk to you guys all very soon when I start Hero of Ages. Let's start with the Hero of Ages. I also have a review of the 11th Medal. I know a lot of people said to read The Secret History, however I've been told it has of minor spoilers for the second book in Era 2, right? Something along those lines. And because of those minor spoilers, I elected not to read it. We will get to it. I have lots of plans for this for Cosmere in the new year. If I sound a little off, or spoiling my words, if I'm like, I don't know, if I don't have the energy like I normally would, I literally just woke up. I'm about to leave to go see the new Avatar movie. I figured I could do this beforehand because I have a little bit of time before the people I'm going with get to my house. Let's talk The Hero of Ages. This is the third and final book in the Misborn trilogy. I'm gonna be really blunt with you. I gave it a 5-star. However, I don't have a lot to say because here's the thing: this book is built on twists after twist after twist after twist. But when we dump that all down to like a cohesive review, I'm sure some people can make, like, if I was reading this like I read Kingdom Ash, or if I read Chain of Thorns, you know what I mean? Then yeah, I feel like we could be sitting here for 3 hours because I'd be updating you like every page, being like, oh my god, did you see that happening? Oh my god, did you see that happening? And like, so I'm excited to jump into the really lengthy spoilery vlogs that are going to be coming for the Cosmere instead of these like bind up wrap ups, because in a way I don't think these work for these books. I think I should have just done spoiler reviews for each book. I still don't know if that's gonna be the case or not. I know for a fact that like when we read The Way of Kings and that series, I can't remember what it's called, but when we read those are too beefy for like a video like this, so those will be individually spoiler reviews, and I do plan on having a copious amount of updates. So but because we're here and because I did finish The Hero of Ages in one go, I have not a lot of copious updates. By the end, the book works out very simply, and I just need to talk about it. So the last book followed Vin as she opened up the Ascension. I can't think of what it's called. What is that called? Oh my god. What the fuck is it called? The Well of Ascension, which released this thing out into the world that she wasn't really sure of, and she also brought back her lover, Venture, or L? They don't call him Venture a lot in this book. Elend. I guess that's not how I expected it to be spelled. Okay, it follows Elend, okay? And we also learn of Ruin as well in here. Ruin is the big antagonist for this entire series as well. Then Elend ended going on this adventure trying to find this metal ATM, which she believes that she needs to win this war. She's obviously been destined. She's the hero. She's been destined as the hero, and so her going on this journey makes a lot of sense. Elend's going with her. They've had a few good years past the Well of Ascension, and they do know the world is coming to an end. It's pretty much talked about. The other main characters we're going to be following, we follow Spook. We follow, I can't remember his name, but he's a prophet who's going through a crisis, and he's a part of Spook's group as well. Spook is more back where I think the second book takes place. Spook is introduced to us because he ends up almost being burned alive by this horrible emperor inside his home. He is saved by who he believes is Kelsier, who ends up not being Kelsier, ends up being a variation of Ruin because he has these things, which we'll jump to. We learned how Imperial guards, like the big guards, the ones that can fight misborns, we learned how they were made as well. Colossals also take a very big part of this book and stuff because they are moving with a colossal army throughout this land. And the beginning of this book has a great action sequence that goes on for about 40 pages where it is Alan taking over the city outside of another city where Ruin technically is being held. He takes over a person who is high ranking in that city because by the end, Vin is captured. I don't really know how this is going to go, but hopefully you've read it. There's a lot to go over, but not like a lot. I guess I'll do it character by character and just summarize their entire plot point, and if there are other characters mixed in, we'll do that. So let's do Spook's group because I do think it's really interesting and important. He spends the majority of this novel thinking he is a savior. He does a lot of things to become a savior. He saves people from burning fires. He kills people for the first time. He falls in love for the first time. Everybody around him is wondering what's going on because he has never been a misborn before. He can always do the other one, I can't think of what it's called. There's a whole guide in the back, which I think is absolutely beautiful. I think maybe it's 10 that he could do on a normal basis, and eventually that leaves his body, and then he is able to do pewter, and he's able to survive this fire, and he takes his chance to become a hero. By the end of the book, we actually learn that he's pretty evil. Spook himself is not evil, but the thing that ends up taking over his body is pretty evil. So in order to learn this, he does not know, he does not understand. The information that we learn that how these Imperial guards are made, I can't remember what they're called, so we're gonna call them Imperial guards. How they are made is by driving spikes through the people who have powers into these guards, and that gives them the ability What we don't realize is that this ability is also makes them controlled by Rune. And so when they are controlled by Rune, Rune has the ability to take over their minds, do them as well. And so he believes that he is following the guidance of Kelsier. In reality, he's following the guidance of Rune. Rune has a lot of different plans. He is trying to build this world into mayhem, and that's exactly what Spook ends up doing. Spook ends up pulling a lot of this back while also being extremely sick by the end, because he does pull out the spiky blade in his leg. But he forgets that's there. Everybody sees it's there. There's a lot of comments about it throughout Spook's journey, especially the characters around him. Other characters that surround him that I think have like a very big moment in the book. Obviously, we gotta talk about the Prophet. So the Prophet, who is what I'm calling it, it's basically, I love this character, which makes me sad. You actually might be serious. His entire journey is coming to terms with the fact that religion itself is most based on the person at hand and not the religion itself. Because you cannot find a religion that's super biased. Every religion needs a god, but the gods themselves, they hold certain weight to them, of course. He's having a bit of a crisis, okay? It's a huge crisis moment for this man. And this started in the Well of Ascension because there's a lot of things that where he believed that he had been studying his entire life. His entire being is being this person, this historian who writes down all this information. And so him not having this information anymore, and then particularly proving that a lot of this information is wrong, has really thrown him into a bit of a funk. And so most of this book, he's just complaining. And then by the final third, he's officially decided that he will believe in her. She will be a god like Kelsier was a god to him. And so that's what he decides to do. And then by the end, he is the one with godlike powers. We'll get there. I know it's a little confusing, but I promise you it will make sense. But he's a part of the storyline. He is the one who ends up with godlike powers, as he is the one who is trustworthy enough to separate good versus evil, which is essentially Vin and Rune. Vin is good, Rune is bad. And he can keep them together inside of him without them ever touching, which was always the problem at hand, or what ends up being the problem. Once again, it can be dwindled down to very simplicity. It also can be brought up to like extreme non-simplicity. I'm sure there's a lot of analytical videos about this. And knowing now a little bit more back history on Brandon Sanderson and his religious beliefs and stuff, it makes a lot of sense. Some of the choices that were made here. Some of them don't. There's a few here. I'd say especially with this character in particular. Yeah, that's all we can really talk about with that character right now. We'll jump back to him at the very end of this review, where we're going to go a little bit more in depth with talking about how, like, what this equals. Continuing onwards, let's jump over to Vin and Elend, who are over with also the Colossals. We'll start with the Colossals. Essentially, we learn that the Colossals are just men. For the majority of this book, they're learning how they breathe, they're learning all these different things. Colossals don't have a lot of brain thought, and so Vin, it takes a liking to a bunch of them and protects a bunch of them throughout all these like little battles. She has like a little group that's just hers, but a lot of them are under basic control of Elend. That's how they get them, because he can control them. But we learn that they're just men who have been experimented on, and this is what the final result turned out to be. So that was a big reveal. I didn't really see that one coming, I'm not gonna lie to you. I also did not see the spike thing coming either, so both things caught me by surprise. But in the final battle, after Vin is captured, so essentially this is what happens. Elend and Vin, okay, because we do have to talk about them as a pair for a minute. Vin's on her own little venture trying to figure out what the Hero of Ages really means. She's also looking for this big supply, the whole reason why they're there, of Atrium. Atrium is something that can see people's future, okay? Very handy in a lot of different ways, but a lot of people do not search it out. It's not very common use of a metal in this world anymore. However, one of the old emperors had a huge supply, and for the last 2 books, she believes that this is her goal, is to find this ATM, and then she can tell the future for the rest of the world and become this Hero of Ages. We learn that's actually Rune's goal, because Rune can become a human again if he has this ATM. It's not really explained how, or if it is, I really missed it, but it doesn't really matter. That's the goal, so that's what we go with. Either way, so they end up going to this place, they end up taking it over, they end up in conversation with these people. Okay, so Elend and Venture, about the middle of the book, decide to go incognito into a ball so Vin can go search the chasm that they believe it's going to be in to see if it's actually there or not, so they can move forward with their travels. There's a lot of other stuff going on, a lot of our politics and stuff. They end up going. It's cute, it's reminiscent, it's perfect for this final scene. It's also one of the final scenes that they have together. There's a like 1 hour moment after a big battle, but this is essentially it for this relationship that I've grown to absolutely adore and love. It definitely is not a romantic book, but however, these characters are so beautiful that I do believe there's a tiny bit of romance in there. I mean, there's a lot of romance in here. And I do think if you're a romance girly looking for a high fantasy, I do think these will do. But I don't think it's like going to be exactly what you're looking for depending on the type of romance you're into. So they end up getting separated. She tells him, do not follow me. If I get captured, if anything, trust me, I got this. She didn't actually have this. I'm going to be honest with you, he should have came. He trusted her more than I would have trusted her, especially knowing what she was going through. Vin is put through the fucking ringer for the final third of this book. So they end up separated. He ends up leaving. He ends up going back to camp. And the guy who he was talking to, this king who we end up realizing is Ruin, or Ruin ends up taking control of eventually by the end. We also learn a lot of this stuff. Ruin is, she learns who Ruin is and all this other stuff because Spook kind of learns about it and that ends up failing, and so she learns all about it on her own. So essentially she ends up getting captured. They take away all of her medals, and she spends the majority of this book being tortured. Very brutally tortured. The other side of things where we have Ellen, who is freaking out about all of this, but also having to move forward with this war. Oh my god, we didn't talk about the ash and the smoke. So the smoke is also taking over things, and we actually learn the smoke is making them into misborns or almancers. They can control like one or two things. It's not like a full misborn, but that's the whole point of the smoke. The smoke is good. We've been told the smoke is bad. The smoke is good. It's actually ended up how they kind of win the war by the end. I'm being told I need to wrap this up. So then we have, so Ven ends up being captured. She ends up actually becoming a god because of this. She takes a lot of things, and she ends up becoming a god. And she and Rune have this fight over what they should do with this godhood that she did turn down. Now she's a full god, and she decides that she's going to win this war, and that's what she does. But in the cost of winning this war, she ends up dying. Rune also ends up looking for the atrium, and that's how she learns that Ellen ends up dying as well. He ends up dying in this battle. He ends up traveling to where she's at, where he believes she is at, or where this atrium is, realizing what it is, gives it to everybody, says, take this, we can win this war. They don't win this war. They win a big part of it, but she ends up solving a lot of those extra problems, changing things, placing things in their places, changing the timeline a bit, and also reconstructing the world to the way that Ellen originally wanted, the way Kelsier wanted all those years ago. Kelsier is very much a part of this book. He's just on the outwards of it all, but he's looking upon it the whole time, if that is something you're worried about. And so it ends with them both dying, but both happy, in love, and in peace. And I have big thoughts on that, but like, it's a book, so it's fine. And then we have, like I said, them pulling all the way back around. Like I said, I skipped a lot, so hopefully you read this. Pulling it back around to the character we just talked about, which is Sorrows, right? Says he ends up becoming this godlike creature that Vin was, and he can take them, he can separate them, and that's where we begin whatever is next in this world. I've been told to read Elantris, so that's what we're going to read. But that, my friend, was this. This was a 5-star read. I also read The 11th Metal. The 11th Metal is Kelsier's prologue. I would recommend reading this first, just whilst Kelsier is on his first journey as he's learning of flowers and stuff very important for the character. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll tell you all next time. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.